Bruce Lee, a name that is synonymous with martial arts, cinema, and legendary charisma. Brandon Lee, a rising star, poised to carry his father's legacy into a new era. Yet both of their lives ended under sudden, shocking, and mysterious circumstances. Over the decades, whispers have grown louder about the so-called Lee family curse, a haunting legacy that has stirred rumors, superstitions, and conspiracy theories in Hollywood and beyond. But is this tragic saga truly the work of a curse, or the cruel hand of fate? Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco in 1940, during the year and hour of the dragon, an astrological fact often linked to his later mythology. Raised in Hong Kong, Bruce was immersed in martial arts from a young age, studying Wing Chun under the famous IP Man. His speed, discipline, and explosive energy set him apart. When Bruce returned to America, he broke into television, most famously playing Kato in The Green Hornet. But it was his philosophy of martial arts and physical training that made him a global figure. Bruce didn't just fight on screen. He moved like a force of nature, blurring the line between performer and warrior. By the early 1970s, Bruce was a global icon. Movies like The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, and Way of the Dragon transformed him into the first Asian superstar of Hollywood. But at just 32 years old, in 1973, Bruce Lee suddenly collapsed. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce was in Hong Kong preparing for the release of Enter the Dragon. Earlier that day, he had complained of a headache. A friend gave him Equagesic, a common painkiller. He lay down to rest and never woke up. Doctors ruled his death as cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. The official cause was listed as an allergic reaction to the medication. But few accepted this explanation. Bruce was in peak physical condition. How could a man in such extraordinary shape die from something so mundane? Rumors spread immediately. Some whispered that he had been cursed, pointing to his father's belief in Chinese superstitions. Others claimed that triads, Chinese organized crime, had assassinated him. More bizarre theories accused shadowy Hollywood executives of orchestrating his death. The most chilling rumors, however, were those tied to the so-called Lee family curse. In Chinese culture, there is a belief that spirits, ancestors, or even supernatural forces can interfere with human lives. Bruce's own family reportedly consulted fortune tellers. Some claimed that a curse had been placed upon the Lee bloodline, a curse that would strike down male heirs in their prime. Adding to the mythology, Bruce himself had spoken of premonitions. He once described a nightmare in which he saw himself lying in a coffin. After his death, these visions were reinterpreted as omens. The eeriest part? Bruce's own final film, Game of Death, seemed to foreshadow his real-life fate. In the movie, his character is shot by an assassin on a film set, killed by a prop gun that turns out to be loaded with real bullets. At the time, it was just fiction. But 20 years later, life would imitate art in the most horrifying way possible. Brandon Bruce Lee was born in 1965, the only son of Bruce Lee. Growing up in the shadow of a father who was more myth than man was not easy. Brandon idolized his dad, but also struggled with the weight of expectations. After Bruce's sudden death, Brandon and his mother Linda moved to the United States. Brandon trained in martial arts, following in his father's footsteps. But he also wanted to be known as an actor, not just Bruce Lee's son. By the late 1980s, Brandon began appearing in films like Showdown in Little Tokyo and Rapid Fire. Critics noted his charisma, his fight choreography, and his natural talent. He was poised to become a major star. Then came the role that was supposed to catapult him into superstardom, The Crow. In 1993, Brandon was cast as Eric Draven, a musician who returns from the dead to avenge his own murder in The Crow. The role was dark, gritty, and emotionally complex. Brandon poured his heart into it, hoping to prove he was more than just his father's son. But on March 31st, 1993, disaster struck. During the filming of a gunfight scene, Brandon was shot with what was supposed to be a blank cartridge. Instead, a fragment of a real bullet that had been improperly cleared from the prop gun lodged into his abdomen. Brandon was rushed to the hospital, but after hours of surgery, he was pronounced dead. He was just 28 years old. The eerie parallels were impossible to ignore. Bruce Lee's final film featured a scene of being killed by a gun on set, and Brandon Lee was killed in exactly that way 2 decades later. With Brandon's death, the whispers of a family curse grew louder. Fans pointed to several strange coincidences. Bruce predicted an early death, often telling friends he didn't expect to live past his 30s. Bruce's Game of Death script included an eerily similar gun accident. Both father and son died just as they were reaching their greatest potential. Both were involved in projects that cemented their legacies only after their deaths. Some argued that the curse was supernatural, a vengeance from spirits or dark forces. Others suggested it was simply a tragic alignment of fate and human error. Hollywood skeptics dismissed the curse entirely, calling it nothing more than tragic coincidence. Prop gun accidents, they noted, had happened before. Allergic reactions and cerebral edema were rare but possible. Yet the mythology of the Lee family curse was too powerful to ignore. The story of Bruce and Brandon Lee has fueled documentaries, books, and endless speculation online. Fans and conspiracy theorists dissect the smallest details. Was Bruce poisoned? Was Brandon's death a Hollywood cover-up? Even the way their legacies have been preserved adds to the mystique. Both men left behind unfinished work. Enter the Dragon was released just days after Bruce's death, catapulting him into immortality. The Crow was completed using stand-ins and early CGI, transforming Brandon's performance into something ethereal, almost ghostly. It was as though both men lived as mortals but were destined to be remembered as legends. Today, Bruce Lee is remembered not just as a martial artist, but as a philosopher and cultural pioneer. His writings on self-improvement, discipline, and breaking barriers continue to inspire millions. Brandon Lee, though his career was cut tragically short, is remembered for his raw talent and the haunting power of his final performance. The Crow became a cult classic, its themes of love, loss, and resurrection forever tied to Brandon's fate. Together, their stories form one of Hollywood's greatest tragedies, a tale of brilliance cut short, of fathers and sons, of art that eerily mirrored life. So, was the Lee family truly cursed? Or were Bruce and Brandon victims of tragic, yet explainable circumstances? Skeptics argue that the curse is nothing more than superstition amplified by coincidence. Bruce may have had a rare allergic reaction. Brandon's death was caused by negligence on set. Both deaths, though shocking, have rational explanations. But for those who believe in fate, the parallels are impossible to dismiss. The prophecy of Game of Death. The father and son both dying young, just as they were about to redefine Hollywood. The eerie timing and symbolism. In the end, whether curse or coincidence, the Lee family story is one of the most haunting in Hollywood history. Their deaths shocked the world, but their legacies endure, immortalized on screen, forever etched into pop culture and wrapped in mystery. Bruce Lee once said, "The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering." He and his son did exactly that. Whether cursed or not, the Lees remain immortal in the hearts of millions, their legend only growing with time, their stories forever haunted by the shadows of fate.